Bonjour. AI, Biostats, etc. Darko and Bruno calling. We have 15 minutes to talk about something meaningful and informative for you. And today we're going to talk about the age of agents. So 2026 was supposed to be, and I think is actually, the age of agent. Darko, good to see you, sir.
Great to see you, Bruno. Bonjour. And
Bonjour.
I think, the 2026 is probably going to be the age of agents. So I'm really excited to discuss this topic with you, and hope that our audience will also be uh, excited, and it will be interesting for
So
them.
we know it's not going to be the age of VR, AR. So I've got my new glasses here. I just took a picture, right? So Mark Zuckerberg spent 75 billion in AR and VR. I admire that. It didn't work. The metaverse didn't happen. But I got these fancy glasses. I had to wait longer than a Birkin bag, right? Months to get it, but I got it. And I showed it in a different podcast earlier today. They're fancy, they're cool. They're not going to go mainstream yet, but I take a picture. I can browse things. I've got that neuro band that reads the little muscle of my wrist. So I use my thumb and my index as a dashboard. People wonder what I do. What is he doing? I'm actually browsing. So anyway, before we talk about Asian, I thought I'll mention our VR AR glasses.
Bruno, is there any chance that you actually come from the future? Because
Yes,
most people actually.
I like to say that. I come for the future, and I kind of I have a little bit of remembrance of the future, and I love the future. And so I think I know a little bit what's going to happen because I come from the future without knowing it. I think that's right.
Yeah, well, that explains it all. How you actually predict everything. That you don't need AI to predict, right?
No, I don't. Yeah. So, and I don't need an agent. So, hey, Daco, what is an agent? And I think you have
Well,
a graph to show us.
yes. So I think our producer Shahir will soon pop up the graph. And hi to Shahir.
How to show here.
Um, yes. So the agents are actually. So I may actually
I
start
think
like
there's
this.
another picture, show here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the other
previous
picture.
one. Yes.
There we are.
So on the left side, we have what we mostly call an LLM, like a chatbot. We can chat with it. Like most of ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, like most of them are actually chatbots. However, in addition to chatting with these models, we can also use them as part of agents. So with agents, it would be like, instead of let's chat, let's actually do. The agent can do stuff for us. They can arrange meetings for us. They can maybe even in the near future buy things for us. So they can actually do the work. They're not just there for chat. They can actually use various tools. They can produce things for us. And that's what actually makes them agents.
Initially, I was really annoyed with agents, the concept of agent, because people will always give the example of buying something. And I don't think anybody ever let an agent buy anything. I mean, it's not a real example near term, in my opinion. What agents do today is not buying things. It's just retrieving information with multi-step, maybe multi-agent, multi models, and then giving me information to make the decision. So in other words, they don't really do anything yet except processing data. They don't act on the world yet. And so initially I got annoyed by that until I realized it's just a marketing phrase. What they do today, and I'll explain a little bit what we do at LARVOL that involve agent, has to do with information, but it's still very valuable. It does multi-step information gathering, information processing. And the example I want to give is that we build an agent, and then you'll explain the kind of agent you built or you're building as well, Darko. But we build an agent that takes a survey. In our case, we in the oncology world, an oncology survey, and that goes to 4 models, ask that model with the right prompt to pretend to be an oncologist and to and to answer that survey. All right, to pretend to be a panel of oncologists, even right, 100 oncologists on ChatGPT, on Gemini, on Claude, on Grok, to answer the survey. Then a second part of the agent would take the average. That's the AI consensus column, second from right. And then on top of that, it's not shown here, but another step of the agentic framework would summarize in one statement the consensus of the four models. Why did they say 32%? Okay. So it summarizes the rationale, the reasoning, maybe a little bit of the data behind the four models as a council, as a jury, reaching a certain conclusion. So that's still information. To me, that's still doing something, but it's not booking anything on anybody's calendar, and it's certainly not buying anything, but it's still extremely valuable. And I would argue that 90% of the use cases are not acting on the world, they're acting on data. So anyway, now I like agents again.
Yeah, me too. In 2025, the the agents came through the big door, like glamorous. Oh, these AI agents are going to do everything. People were actually saying that agents are going to replace humans in the companies. So a few companies that actually tried that didn't really end up that glamorously, I'd say. And I think one of the main reasons was that in 2025 we were not yet ready for the agents. The LLMs that we were using for the agents were not yet ready. They were not yet trained for agentic workflows. So what may be interesting for our listeners is that LLMs, the novel generations of LLMs, are specifically trained to be part of the agents. There is a special part of training. There is that main part that we call the pre-training, and then there is another part where the agent is specifically trained to follow instructions in agentic workflows. So most best LLMs are actually very good at that right now, and they are becoming better, and more accurate every few weeks. So that's one of the reasons why 2026 may be different. We actually trust these agents more, and I think they will gain more and more traction. And that's one of the reasons why we said at the beginning, 2026 may actually be the year of AI agents.
I talked with my mom today, and I said, "Your son is the most annoying CEO." And so, an example of me being annoying, I hear about agent, and I tell our team, "Oh, where are we with our agentic framework strategy, and why aren't we using agents?" So that was some time ago, and then I said, "Oh, no, we're not going to invent our own framework for agent. Why don't we use N8N? I heard about N8N or Zapier. They're the third one, I think, right? But these are the two I remember. The two platforms to build agents. First, the first problem is how in the world do you pronounce N8N? How is it even pronounceable? And then someone told me, oh, no, no, nobody says that. We say NNN, three N's. All right. So then, okay, now I understand. All right. So I went back to the team. I said, okay, where are we using NNN or let's use NNN? Where's our NNN? I want my NNN. And so, and then we had a fight because they said,
Whoa.
oh, no, we don't want to use NNN. We want to build our own framework. And CEOs, right, say, oh, okay, here it goes. The engineers, they want to build something that already exists. I know the movie, it's always the same. They want to rebuild the thing that exists. So I got a big fight, right? And we spent a lot of time back and forth, and I lost the fight.
Oh,
Oh, I let them win. No, no, I think genuinely I lost. Everybody agreed. Everybody agreed. No, no, Bruno, we're not going to use NNN. We're going to build our own framework. And they were right because in 3 days or so, they build their own framework, and it allowed more flexibility. For example, we could use a deep research with all of the models or something like that, where NNN or Zapier had limitations about which LLM you can use and so on and so forth. So I lost. I'm glad I lost. I think they were right that we can build our own framework. So now we have our own framework. And one example of what we do, I think that's what Shahir was showing just a little bit earlier, is this whole we take we take the survey and we summarize the result together with a rationale. It sounds simple, but it saves a lot of time, and then we can really systematically. So it's a survey prediction tool, and we can systematically save the prompt, save the result, and calibrate all the results of these surveys, doing mass surveys essentially. So let me pause, and that's my story about agents.
Actually, it's a very interesting story, and I have a very similar duality of thoughts myself. So sometimes I actually want to use these frameworks like NA10 or NNN. Definitely easier to pronounce, to myself as well. And I agree. When you build your own framework, you don't have to build it from scratch, but you still build your own framework. It allows you for more flexibility, for building more unique products. And what we are seeing here at AI simulated polls versus psychologist polls, it's one of those products it seems quite unique. It doesn't seem something like you can build straight in NA10. You actually have to adapt it to your own platform and to your own data. So I don't know who won the battle, but I think it ended up
Not
winning.
me.
Everybody won at the end.
So some people like to not say not to present it as a zero sum game. I do the reverse just for fun. I say I win or I lost, right? Or you lost. So I make it dramatic on purpose, even if I don't need to.
Yeah, a
Um,
little bit of drama is always good. You know?
the French, we love drama. We manufacture it if we don't have it.
The French drama.
The French drama, right? We love making a movie out of it. So, um, um, so this year we gonna what we're trying to do, Darko, is to build our agent. So anytime we want to do something with LLM that is repeatable, we want our agent framework to be the place where it happens, right? So we save, of course, that agent. So it's like a collection of skills. We save that agent, we can fine tune it. We have different version of it, I guess. We save the results. We can tweak the prompt. We can change the input. We're trying to really build an agentic engine for all of our agentic needs in our different products. And that's what we plan to do. So, if people listening to the podcast, if you have any questions, and that's my strength is sticking to it. Paul is making a comment to us. That's right. So, if Paul or others, if you have any agentic story or war story or horror story or dramatic story or love story related to agent, feel free to post it or to ask us questions, and it will be a bit of a conversation on the feed.
Well, while we're waiting for any comments, I may add an interesting perspective for everyone, which is that if you're using ChatGPT, for example, ChatGPT Thinking, or you're using Claude Opus, or you're using Grok, or most of these best frontier models, it's interesting that some time ago they were actually chatbots, so you could only chat with them, but the companies behind them are actually have with time, they have turned them into agents. So if you go and chat with ChatGPT 5.2 Thinking right now, you're actually talking to the agent. It's no longer just the LLM, because ChatGPT 5.2, it can browse internet, it can write Python code, it can use tools, it can create files for you, right? So they are, in every sense, actually agentic LLMs. They're more like agentic AI agents, which use LLM as
Yeah.
a central brain, but maybe an interesting angle for everyone listening.
Actually, let's go back to the poll for a second because I've got a point to make related
Okay.
to what you said about what does it mean to be an agent as opposed to a chatbot. A chatbot is giving you text. It usually doesn't give you numbers, but it can, right? Here's the value of getting a number. If you get a number with a calibrated prompt from ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Grok, you can take the average. You can compare the numbers. And in comparing the numbers, you can have a consensus that is not textual and therefore is as there are certain things you can do. It's quantitative, but also, especially in cases where you don't have ground truth, right? I mean, here you could say you have a ground truth, which is the actual poll. That's a ground truth. Okay, but in many cases, let's say in predicting the market for something, you don't have ground truth. You can ask a number quantitative prediction from each of the four models. But what's very interesting is whether they agree, congruence, consensus. And here, the shading between these four models is what shows the congruence, the agreement. And to me, I find it fascinating because even if I don't have ground truth, I can have them compete. And if they all agree, independently. Of course, they didn't cheat with each other. They have the same data, different algorithm a little bit, but they all agree. It creates a lot of confidence to me. If they disagree, it's also very interesting because then you can try to figure out why do they disagree? What assumptions did they have that is different? And the explanation, the rationale for the, let's say, 51% that include the 30% of ChatGPT include the richness of that disagreement. And so, as a human, as I look at the rationale behind the 51%, I can understand how the council, the jury of these four LLM reach the 51% conclusion. And I think it's very powerful. So, this is a lot of the kind of agent, I guess, a kind of multi-modal, not modal, but modal, multi-modal agent that we're building.
Yes, as you said, it's the numbers are important, but it's not just about numbers because I assume the agentic workflow that's behind this works in multiple steps. So in these multiple steps, it can produce better explanations for the user, how it made the prediction, why it made the prediction, what is the data that's behind that, what are potentially the references or other sources of information that the agent is using. So as you said, the prediction is interesting, but actually what is even more interesting for researchers, pharma, biomedical professionals, is this detailed number of steps and rationale, how it actually got there to that prediction. And it's interesting that, I think there is a lot of agreement from the chart from the table that I was seeing. There's actually quite a lot of agreement between agents, but also with the real poll. So I think that's very interesting. And as you said, even if there are these differences could be, a source of even more explainability. So each model, each agentic workflow could have different rationale. So you could potentially even compare those explanations and rationales and see where they differ as well.
Absolutely. Uh, we had time. So just before we leave, I can just do my little trick and move my ear. Can you move
Oh,
your ear?
how do you do that? I I
Years of
have
practice.
no, I don't know.
Our audience came here to learn about agent, and they get me to move my ear. Like,
This is some trickery, Bruno. I have no idea how that works. By the way, since you are from the future, I have now confirmed that. I think we should actually make one of the episodes Back to the Future, but then we would be traveling to the past as in the movie Back to the Future.
Yes, 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 yes. I think. Well, I actually. Okay, we on extra time here. Shahir is going to cut us in a second, but I actually don't believe, sorry to say, in time travel. I don't believe at all. I don't believe in alien visiting us, time
Mhm.
travel, moving faster than the speed of light, and anti-gravity. I nearly believe in everything, but these things I don't believe at all. I don't think you can go faster. I don't think you can also travel in time. You cannot teleport yourself either. I don't believe in that either, right? But
Mhm.
nearly everything else I believe in. Well, teleportation actually, it will take a lot of explanation to tell you the kind of teletransportation I believe in. But I give it a lot of thought.
Yeah,
So
what would you say if a time traveler comes and tells you, "I don't believe in time travel"?
that's right. It would be the perfect, of course. What the time travel is going to say? You have to keep the secret. So
Yeah.
obviously, what would I say? That's a good point. Yes, yes. Um, or also maybe the other idea is that time travelers don't know that they're time travelers, because if not, they will mess things up in the universe. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's
So
the other.
what if I if I go to the past and I affect my own life, then I'm changing something that already exists, and there is a
Yes,
paradox. I think there's
yes,
actually in physics there is a paradox that you
yes.
just cannot go. You cannot go in the past because then you would change the future, and if you change the future, then you actually don't exist in the form that you
All right.
exist right
We
now.
we
Right?
we should do a future episode, maybe next one on time travel. Now, does
Yeah.
it fit with? It fits in the etc. or biostat AI etc.
Yeah. It
We can say
fits. It
time.
fits.
Then we do anti gravity, okay, and teleportation
And quantum physics. We need quantum
and
physics.
quantum computing. Okay, deal.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Au revoir.
Au revoir.